Welcome everyone. For those of you that don't know, my name is Adam Schomer. I directed the Road to Dharma and the series, and then created the online course, which you've all been a part of. So thank you all so much for joining. Thank you for jumping into the course with such willingness. I have the honor tonight. We have an amazing moderator who's a dear friend of mine, Paula Di Florio. She's Oscar-nominated director. She's an Emmy-nominated director. I met her and her husband Peter when we were making The Highest Pass, my first film, and we became friends ever since. At that time, I believe you guys were in post on Awake, the Yogananda film, at the same time, so that was beautiful. So she directed the film Awake about Yogananda, the documentary, which I co-directed, and your husband Peter edited some and produced some, etc. And you guys are really, I would say, pioneers in the conscious media world, and you guys founded together Counterpoint Films, and I'm just stoked that you're here. We're dear friends. We get to do yoga on the beach here in LA, and now we get to Zoom and do this amazing Q&A, so welcome.
Thank you. It is hello to everybody, and yes. Anand, pranams to you. Pranam. I am so thrilled to be here, and thank you, Adam. It's a joy. Yes, our friendship is very, very special and goes way back. And I want to thank you both for allowing me to participate in this evening. I was really, really blown away by the series, Adam. You did an incredible job. And thank you for listening to your heart and throwing away that Bachelor's of Science degree at Cornell University and going to India and finding Anand and learning how to follow your heart's truth. Because what you've done here in weaving your own Dharma, your own road, and what you feel, the path to it, to expressing it through filmmaking, you've done something so unique and so incredible. And in addition to the series itself, the teachings that you've created as a follow-up. So this is cinematic Dharma at its best.
Thank you, Paula.
Your company, Eye2Eye Productions, you journey to extreme places and the lengths that you follow to tell heroic stories that empower the human spirit. Yeah. I commend you for that. So like no other filmmaker or seeker that I know, you walk the walk and you weave the essence of who you are into all that you do. So thank you for that. I want to just say that Adam, wrote the corresponding online course, Living a Life of Freedom. And he's a certified master of Sattva Yoga. He's a teacher and also been teaching meditation in Los Angeles for over 11 years. So on the beach. So some of us get to partake, like New Year's Day.
And even when it's 80 degrees, I still wear a scarf. You know, that's true dedication.
You look so good in it. Anyway, it's a real joy. So welcome again to those of you who have just joined in. We're discussing Road to Dharma, created and written by and directed by Adam Schomer, and featuring Anand Mehrota, the Himalayan yoga master, who I've had the privilege of meeting and working with, and going to journeying to his center in Rishikesh. Which just has a very powerful vibration. For those of you who have gone, you know what I'm talking about. And for those who haven't, as soon as we can gather again, you must go there. It's really quite something to experience. Born in Rishikesh, Anand was born in Rishikesh, the birthplace of yoga as we know it. He has unprecedented access to all the sacred and historical sites, the spiritual destinations, and the deepest of teachings. He's not your typical Indian yogi. I mean, let's face it, Anand, you you ride a motorcycle, you wear blue jeans, you have cool sunglasses, you shave. So you're not like our typical Indian yogis. But I'd say that what stands out to me about you, Anand, is your integrity. You're very powerful. Your clarity in your teachings comes through laser clear. And you provoke us. You push our boundaries of what we think we can do and who we can really be. You do that mentally and physically, and your dedication to helping us transcend is something that's very dear to my heart to watch and to witness. So thank you for that. Some things about Anand: he founded the Sattva Center and Yoga Academy, along with a number of foundations that do incredible work in the world. So I very much encourage you guys to go to thesattva.com and learn more about that. He's appeared in documentaries, The Awake, The Life of Yogananda, The Highest Pass, and the TV series Yogic Paths. And of course, this beautiful series, The Road to Dharma, where we really get to sink into Anand's teachings. So I would love to we have so many amazing questions that have come in, and we want to have time to get around to all of them. I would love to throw a couple of questions out to get us started, if that's okay. Adam, I would love to know, how did you choose the writers for this series? What did you have in mind? Were you looking for particular human struggles that you wanted to represent? Did you want people that knew how to ride a motorcycle? I mean, obviously not everybody did. So tell us a little bit about how you came about choosing.
I wanted people that didn't know how to ride a motorcycle. It's better for a drama. No, we don't choose in that sense. Those that are willing and committed. There's no reality TV production that's going on here. We're not trying to cast a certain amount of people that fit a certain thing at all. In fact, to be honest, it's people that are willing, committed, and want to go on a pilgrimage first and foremost. They want to go with Anand to these sacred sites with each other on motorcycles and hiking. And then I'm, in essence, granted the access to be able to follow that pilgrimage. So it's not really a show. That's what makes it authentic, is that we're following something has a real intention. So Fred, Fred, who's 75, actually didn't really tell us that he hadn't ridden in 40 years, but he wanted to come. We assumed he could ride. And really that's the beautiful thing, is that Anand really opens this up to people to give them the experience. Like having the passengers is really a big deal too. Having passengers that you don't have to ride a bike to come on this adventure. You can be a passenger in the back, or you can even be in the car. So no, we didn't produce it at all. And I'm really thankful for that, because then it comes off authentic, and, producers might come and say, hey, next time let's have a celebrity on, and blah. I'm like, hey, calm down. Let's keep this what it's supposed to be.
That's kind of amazing, because it seems like everyone had a different struggle. And what I love so much is that those struggles do have some common ground. It feels like there's a lot of, am I enough? Not enoughness in various manifestations in people's lives in this series. And so you're saying that you had just the right number of people to go and do this?
Yeah, as many people that signed up, so to speak, is what we took. I think on some level, I wanted less people, but I'm glad we had as many people as we did, to be honest. It was
amazing.
It's always, the universe is always providing amazing things like that for you. I couldn't have scripted better to have Elle or to have Jeff and Jen, with their relationship issues. That's something so important to everybody, as like a lot of the questions that have come in about relationships.
Yeah.
It was just perfect, to be honest. And then of course, as a director, you're choosing what to follow more and who to talk to more, and what in the final edit, what to highlight more, of course.
That's great. Thank you. We'll come back. There's a lot of questions that are going to be tapping into some of the things that are follow-ups to that question as well. So we'll have a chance to go into that in more detail. Anandji, at the time in life where giant structures as we know them in the world that we live in our society, are crumbling, religious structures, political structures, it's a time when we are really seeking, and more people are moved toward direct experience. And my question to you is, does everybody need a guru?
Yeah, I mean, guru literally means the removing of unveiling the light, right? Removing the darkness. So I think in that sense, everybody needs a guru, meaning that we all have light and we need to unveil it. And that guru is an instrument, really. Guru is not an individual. It is an activity of consciousness. Really, it's an expression of existence itself. So when we say Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah, we are not really speaking to an individual. We are speaking to the fundamental expression of existence, that it is embedded in existence, like life is an expression of existence, you know. And so is that feature that within each and every one of us is a longing to grow, you know, within each and every one of us. That's what really is fundamental to the human experience, to know. Yes, to know, to be, to realize. And that process that allows the instrument is the guru instrument. So what we call it is guru tattva, is really an element of existence. So in that sense, yes, everybody, whether that is a movement, whether it is, you know, ultimately it is existence. Guru is not an individual. When we say guru within and without are only from the position of the mind-body complex. Ultimately, it's all within. You know, it's within the field of consciousness. I mean, it's a relevant positionality to have a within and a without, but we have to be aware that they are only relevant from the point of view of the mind-body, right? From the point of view of your awareness, everything is within awareness. So Guru Tattva is, everybody needs that unveiling, because we have the light and there is a certain level of conditioning that veils it. And so it's not really necessarily an individual, but we all need to learn, right? We all need to learn, we all need to realize, and that's what really Guru means, is to learn, to realize, to come home to the light within.
You know, Anand, a follow up to that is that you one of my favorite quotes of yours, you really illuminated for me that the guru leads you to, not to him or her, but to you, to oneself. And you said that in Awake, when I interviewed you, and you said it in The Road to Dharma. And it is so profound when that revelation happens in the guru-disciple relationship. In other words, we're seeking answers, but there's a moment in time when we realize and recognize that there's been a transmission and that we can do that for ourselves. And what in that current, that shared current that happens between the disciple and the guru, when there's sincerity and intentionality, how do you work with that energetic, with that current, to turn it so that someone recognizes that they have that light within?
You see, that ultimately that's the whole point, right? The point is not to create dependency, because that's really doesn't work out for anybody. That's a recipe for suffering. What we need is sovereign beings. Only sovereign beings can experience unity. Sovereignty leads to true unity. Dependency leads to passive aggression. And whoever you are codependent on, you will secretly hate. And so in the long run, that will only lead to violence. And so if we are really interested in peace, we need to be interested in gaining sovereignty. From sovereignty, we can come to unity, true love. And that's where we realize the true unity, and while maintaining the diversity, just like the infinity of the planned world, where there is unity maintained while diversity simultaneously expresses. And so unity and diversity are expressions of this reality. And as long as we are not realizing that sovereignty, that authentic power, then we are forever lost, lost. And so since, in our tradition, in our teaching, with the grace of the masters, that has always been very clear, because self-realization is pointing in the direction of self only. Self is fundamental to all experience of life. And the self is first the I. The beginning of self is I, not you. Even you are in relation to I only. You are evident to I. I is self-evident. And as long as the I is not being realized, there is going to be always ignorance. Ignorance is going to be dominated. So will be dominating. So the whole point, all the point of teachings and the techniques is to really illuminate the I, which is the fundamental value of life, fundamental value of life. And that's where true joy comes, right? If as a teacher also, as somebody who is leading, you want to make people self-sufficient, to come home to themselves. And then there is a great joy, a great connection, a great conversation. That's where you get to celebrate. Otherwise, it's there is always going to be purely just seeking, not really discovering.
That's beautiful. And I think, Adam, you really do that. You have this sense of bringing us home as we go through that experience with each of these characters through the series. Let's go and explore some of these amazing questions that have come in. For Adam.
Yes.
Somebody asks that they would like to know more about what is behind the scenes and not revealed at the documentary. Maybe an experience that happens and is something of value that you can share with us. So tell us something that's happened in the making of this that is behind the scenes that you feel gives value.
Sure. The cool thing is what just came to me was on Tungnath. So that's episode 5 on Tungnath. I remember you come first to a Shiva temple at 12,000 feet, and then above 12,000 feet is the feminine temple, Chandrashila. And I remember Scott's the cameraman, the director of photography, and myself get up there, and people had paused for a moment to have tea, and I was just like, we got to go before the clouds move in. You know, we got to get up there to the high temple. So what you don't see is he and I like going as hard as we can to get up this last 1,000 feet. And he and I both, when we got up there, just started crying, you know, at this top of this temple. And everybody, we mentioned it in episode 5, everyone started crying when they got up there, a lot of the men for some reason. We didn't capture everybody crying, you know, per se, but everyone related that experience of somehow when we come to this feminine above the masculine, I don't know, we all just got really emotional. And it was so beautiful. And I remember feeling so much like, kind of like a coach, you know, with my cameraman also, like, come on, like, give me the bag and let's go another 20 feet. And then I give him the bag back and we go 20 feet and we were just pushing each other up. And I just, there's that part of me that loves that athlete that just loves like, how hard can we push ourselves to get the shot? And it was so quiet up there. I mean, you know, when Anand is talking up there about Chandrashila, that's just the camera, the mic off the camera. It was just so quiet up there. And it's just my favorite moment. And what you don't know is behind me is up there. You see behind me this is Tungnath. That's Anand and I up there on Tungnath. So it is a very special behind the scenes moment for me. It was just the time that we spent up there. And what else could I say behind the scenes? I mean, we can probably talk later about what's happened to some of the characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of those, just the amount of up and down and running that the crew had to do. It's so much, you know, it's really, really so much of trying to get ahead of people and back. I think I lost 15 pounds over 3 weeks.
And Tungnath is where the gap was. That was the lesson of finding the gap, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so, Anand, what can you say to because the gap, that's so beautiful. It's kind of like that space that we don't see or we're not talking about. So it kind of fits the question a little bit, which is, you know, what could you tell us about how, what was transmitted in the gap just through the cinematic Dharma that was delivered in this film? Could you speak to that was not necessarily obvious?
I think just as when you witness a rose, and maybe your first encounter to the rose might be just with the label of the rose, but when you start to be with the rose, it starts to reveal something subtler. For within that rose is infinity hiding. And I think when we go up to the Himalayas, the majesty of that, the infinity becomes so obvious in the relative expression. And to be up there, you know, and how magnificently Adam and Scott caught it, and how it magnificently has been expressed. The silence, of course, there is the teachings through the words, but just the silence that emanates there as you really sink in and you revisit and you revisit. As your consciousness state starts to alter and you start to really absorb, then the veil starts to lift further and further. Just like the gap between the words, when you really begin to stabilize within yourself, you become so comfortable with the silence. And the silence becomes rich. It is not stagnant. The silence that you begin to experience through the corresponding increase of silence within you is of a dynamic quality. It is not a flat lining of consciousness, but rather an ever enriching experience. In that silence, great mystery keeps revealing itself to you. And you begin to realize that always the words will fall short. Whatever can be expressed in words will always be far lesser than what cannot be expressed through the words, right? Whatever can be known in the level of thought, on the level of intellect, will always be lesser than that which cannot be unknown. The unknown will always be greater than the known. Such is the law of nature. Such is the nature of time. What we do not know at this moment of time as a species is far greater than what we collectively know. So in that silence, we get to be intimate with that unknown, where the love affair truly enlivens our heart, you see. Ultimately, fear is the fear of the unknown. And the universe is the great unknown to us. And when we can begin to be with that gap, we can begin to connect to that gap as our ally, then the universe starts to show up as a great friend. This life starts to show up as a great friend, you see, in the stillness, in the gaps. And I think it's beautifully captured. And I'm sure most of the people who have taken this course will revisit, this series and watch. And every time they watch it after taking the course and doing the practices, they will find greater messages being revealed to them in the gaps, in the silence.
Yeah, thank you for really identifying that. In filmmaking, we call it the presence of the absence. And to capture that is magic. So when you can capture what you can without words and have somebody feel that transmission is the presence of the absence. And you did that so beautifully in the series. Mm. So I'm going to move on. This seems to be like a big question. In lesson 7, when Anand faces Ryan about him being such a nice guy and how this negates his own power, hence his peace, it was like a punch in the stomach to me, says this person. I watched and rewatched and have revisited that scene and the evening wisdom talk afterwards. As a result, my interactions with others and life have changed. Can you speak to how this is impacting each of us on an individual level, then as a collective? There are so many of us being polite and nice, and instead of actually speaking the truth. Is it time to speak out? I think this is a question having to do with, let's start with that one. There's a follow-up as well, but I think let's start with that. Is it time for all of us collectively and as individuals at this point in time in the world to be, to step up in terms of speaking up?
Yeah, it's time definitely to step up. And sometimes stepping up can be speaking up. Sometimes stepping up can be also silence. Mm-hmm. Sometimes stepping up is walking away. Sometimes stepping up is leaning in, but absolutely without stepping up, there is always going to be a big gap between who you are and who you want to be, and that gap is going to be suffering. And so this stepping up is crucial for us to live a life of relevance, to feel relevant in the world, to not have that inner stress, you see. So there, with a lot of time, the niceness that we throw around in the world is passive aggressive, it's codependent. It is, be suppressing something. It is not arising from an authentic state of presence. And so as we begin to really cognize it and come to a truer sense within ourselves, we will have a world which is much more authentic, much more authentic, and where thank yous would really be transformative to the person who says it and the person who receives it, you see. Otherwise, thank you is a very commonly used word in English, but thank you is an expression of a grateful heart. But we do not see a grateful heart being expressed, shining in the world. So the stepping up is a real invitation to living from an authentic place within ourselves, not have this kind of diabolicness, you know. So absolutely, it is time. It has always been time. It is always time to step up. But I would like to make that distinction that stepping up is not just about speaking up. In that case, in Ryan's, that was specific. When I'm teaching, I'm teaching not just, teaching to the individual as much as to the collective, right? So in that particular instance for Ryan, it was very relevant and important for his growth to speak up in that moment, right? But sometimes it is, silence is as much about, it can be as much stepping up. But stepping up is crucial, absolutely.
Well, what you did with Ryan was sort of, it felt like a flattening of the ego in a way.
Yes.
You know, it felt like you were asking him to step up, but you needed to kind of give him some like man talk. And, you know, it was interesting to watch. And when you did that, you know, it's interesting because you come in the lineage of Sri Yukteswar. And, you know, in terms of the relationship between, for those who know the lineage of Paramahansa Yogananda and that lineage, Sri Yukteswar was Yogananda's teacher. And what he was known for was being very, very direct and, you know, and not mincing words. I think Yogananda talked about it as though he were like removing, like discovering and removing every diseased tooth in his mouth and his jaw, you know. It's like so painful. And I just wonder, and you have the courage to, you know, like you do that, that's your style. And it's like Ma Kali, right? Cutting off the head of ignorance. So I'm just, I'm wondering about, I thank you for saying that we've always been ready, and that this is actually the pain. It sounds like what you're saying, this is the pain of being human, is that it's almost like birth on this plane is traumatic, because we eventually learn how to be, and then we have to kind of realize that that's all wrong, and then we have to undo that, and it's such hard work. So in Ryan's case, I think a lot of people felt like, God, that was mean. Why were you mean, Anand?
My guru always said, I don't need you to like me. I need you to love yourself. And I've lived with that. When I'm working with the students or people, I do not need them to like me. Because as we said, my intention there is not to lead you to me, right? But to lead you to yourself. So I'm not there trying to ask you to like me, to agree with me. Hey, do you like me? Look, I'm nice to you. You see, it's the whole intention there is to wake you up to yourself. And sometimes fire is as relevant, right? As a child, when you are young as a child, you need the parents sometimes to be strong. That is their consistent theme across the natural kingdom. And sometimes that compassion shows up as a flower, and sometimes the compassion shows up as a sword. So in Tantric Buddhism, Manjushri, who is the great incarnation of wisdom, in one hand holds the lotus and the other hand holds the sword, right? Ganesha, who is the great remover of obstacle, the remover of the ego in the Tantric tradition. And you look at Ganesha, he has the sweets in his one hand and the other hand is a machete. So it always comes together. Compassion is not always just going to show up as somebody tickling you, right? It's also going to show up as a sword. That's just life. We will have laughter and we will have tears, and sometimes our greatest lessons will come from the tears, you see. So when I am teaching, there is not me, the I there is no mind happening there. I'm just present and allowing what needs to happen and fulfill the need of the hour without really an investment into a personal agenda. So there is no personal seeking of something. That's what needs to happen, and I'm just present and available to the moment and allow what spirit needs to make happen. So it's really when I'm speaking individually or collectively, it's not Anand as an isolated identity. There is no thought involved. There is no preparation involved. I'm not like sitting in my room and preparing notes. Okay, I'm going to go and be mean to Ryan today, and Adam, make sure you film it. You know, it's just what needed to happen in that moment. and without thought is just being in the flow state, you know, and just allowing that creative intelligence to move through you. And as I said, the whole point of, you know, Ryan is a magnificent spirit, as we all are, right? It was really the point to wake him up to his own authentic power. And sometimes, you know, you need the cold water to wake up.
Yes.
You know, and sometimes you need the hug. And they're both expressions of love, right? They're both expressions of love only. And I think that's very important for us as we become mature individuals. That's one of my invitations for everyone to realize that there is, you know, there is only love happening.
Thank you.
Always, always. There is only love happening always. And if we can live from that point of view, our life will be incredible. Yeah. Incredible. When we realize that there is only love happening at any moment.
Yes.
Even when it feels a little bit painful.
And Adam, from an ethics point of view, yes, thank you, and thank you for that. From an ethics point of view, you know, we're always trying to find that line as filmmakers of, you know, allowing some, you know, just being there and capturing something that's real and truthful about being human, and also allowing someone the respect of experiencing, whether it's somebody dying on camera or, you know, in grave danger. What does one do? What did you do in that moment? Did you lean in, or were you just at the right place at the right time? Did you know it was coming? What happened from a filmmaker's point of view?
Yeah, we were at the right place at the right time. Maybe we had a little heads up. I don't exactly remember, you know. But I mean, it is probably my favorite moment in the whole series. I mean, it's so beautiful, that path in the Himalayas, and really you can see there's no edits, not a word is wasted. It's just pure, powerful teaching coming through. And I think everyone really resonates what's going on there. And in terms of ethics, in that moment, no, it seemed very appropriate to be filming, so to speak, even though it was very personal. It was very appropriate, and we were farther along the journey. There was some earlier times in episode 3, Jen was going through something and we didn't film. And because, again, first and foremost, people are on their pilgrimage. And if there's something for their own growth that would be better, if not on film, then we had to lean toward that. And I remember Anand saying to us, like, no, not right now. And of course I was disappointed maybe in that moment, but it's not like it hurt the series. What was important was that he was teaching Jen, and she needed to go through something. And it was better if the cameras weren't there for that, right? Again, that's first and foremost. So ethics or not, it's just more, again, the intention of the trip. And I think that's a little bit of the difference between the highest pass also on the road to Dharma is we didn't want to stop and like retake and like maybe ride the bikes again here and then. We wanted to keep flowing, you know, and let it be a little more organic and not take too much time to film like that. So it was up to us to really capture what we could, and also if Anand ever says, you know, no, not this, then we don't, you know.
Got it.
You have to trust. Yeah, you have to trust what's best for the person. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Adam, this one's for you as well. Is it possible to do a documentary series like this in the United States, or have we disrespected the land so much here that the mountains and streams and forests don't offer the energy emanating from the 4 sacred peaks?
Yeah, I like this question because, of course, the United States has places of power, right? If you're in California and you go to the redwoods, the sequoias, for example, are so powerful. They are emanating 2,000-year-old trees. They're emanating big time, right? So nature has power. But as Anand talks about when we're in Badrinath in episode 6, you know, place of power is also what people have brought to it years after years after years, right? People have meditated somewhere, then it has that power. So do I think we could do a series in the US? I don't think so, to be honest. I don't think season 2 would be that great in the United States. I think it needs to be like, you know, out of the bubble, right? You got to get out of your comfort zone and be somewhere a little bit different, a lot different. And, you know, the Himalayas are so powerful, right? And it's been just the center of spirituality for so long. And these temples are so powerful and they're untouched for thousands of years. And you can't really, other than just nature per se, get that in the US. Of course, there's places of power, in summary, that are amazing, and you should go visit those in the US. But I don't want to do season 2 here, you know, maybe season 2 in another part of India or Bhutan or New Zealand or Patagonia, you know.
So you'll always be taking people from the US somewhere else? I mean, you won't take like 16 riders from India to the United States.
No, people come from everywhere in the world. We had people from Kazakhstan, Russia, you know, in this Canada, US.
Okay.
So it's always multinational. I'm thinking about New Zealand for the next one. We'll see.
Okay.
Because you can film there right now.
I'm going to move us to the next question, which is, what have you, Adam, and you, Anand, learned from the experience that maybe surprised you?
I'm surprised how much I haven't learned, Paula. You know, I mean, I keep making the same mistake. No. What surprised me, I'll say quickly. Just quickly is just the reverence for timing and the seasons of things, and things have their own season. For Rota Dharma, the process from filming to releasing has been a long time, and I can only say that I'm glad it's coming out now because people are more ready. I think the networks are more ready. I think humans are more ready. Meditation, at least in the US, right? This market is a little more ready. So I definitely learned that lesson of patience and resourcefulness, and staying with it and staying with it and staying with it.
I am your witness in that, and you really have been amazing in that way. Anand, what about for you? What may have surprised you in this experience?
Nothing.
Spoken like a true master.
I knew it. I knew it.
I don't get surprised often, because surprise has a certain level of expectation. You have to be expecting something to be surprised. I'm in awe. I live in awe. I'm perpetually in awe of this magnificent unfolding of reality, this incredible Leela. And so being on that journey, you know, I was in awe of these majestic mountains. And even though I had been there before, it's always new. And it's just the events that occurred and the growth of the people. I'm in awe of all the people who were there and their incredible strength of spirit, their courage, their hearts, you know, each and every one of them. I was in awe of them. I was in awe of Adam and Scott working hard and trying to do their best while simultaneously riding. And, you know, I was in awe for people who were first-time riders, and, you know, and the passengers who were trusting and surrendering totally. I was in awe of how we were supported, like in spite of all these novices and all these treacherous roads and all these hiking, nobody really, you know, they all came back in full parts, right? So I was in awe of the moment in Tunganath that we get to be there, and those clouds just flowed past us, and that tears of grace just rolled out. So it's the whole journey was awe-inspiring, you know, for me.
Yes.
Thank you. I always invite people to live in wonder.
Yes. For Anand, this one's for you. This person says that as a seeker on the path, pain, especially physical but also emotional, can be one of the greatest drivers to focus on God. But it can also be a backdoor for accepting responsibility for that which binds us to avoid the practice. So we can use it to drive us toward God, but we can also use it as an excuse. Of course, we can still serve and sit when we're in pain, but it's not an easy path. And this person would really like for you to expound on how can one transcend the experience of pain so that they can be free.
See, pain or happiness, they can both lead us towards or away, right? So sometimes when we get happy and we get everything, we can feel more grateful and we can feel so in awe. But also a lot of time we get happy and we forget all about it, and our hedonistic tendencies take over, right? So I think same can happen with happiness when things seem to be working out for you, and also when things are not. So in both states, one can either lead more in the direction of truth within oneself or God, you know, another name for that same presence, or away from it. Only within, and what is important to realize is only within one's mind, because ultimately one can never really move away from God, because that's all there is. So it's only on the relevant relative level of the mind one can move away. But in truth, one can't really ever. So now the second part of the question about pain. And I think that's why we have techniques. We need a practice consistent. We need a consistent practice. We need to refine our instrument. We need to refine our mind. We need to refine our pranic body. So 5 koshas are there. You know, we have the Annamaya kosha, which is the physical body of matter. We have Pranamaya kosha, the body of energy. We have Manamaya kosha, body of thought, mind, intellect. We have Jnanamaya kosha, the body of wisdom. And we have Anandamaya kosha, the body of presence. So we need to refine all our 5 layers, 5 koshas, and that's in yoga. We have techniques and practices for all of it. So slowly, as we gradually practice, we become more and more capable of being with whatever experience is arising without feeling the compulsion to label it pain or happiness, right? It's just experience. The experience belongs to unity or existence, but the interpretation of the experience belongs to the individual. And the interpretation happens from the state of consciousness that we are currently most consistently maintaining. So if we are not refining the state of our consciousness consistently, then our interpretation is always going to be skewed in the direction of isolation. And isolation equals suffering. So a lot of the pain that we experience when it turns to suffering, this transfer from pain to suffering is actually, a lot of the energy that pain derives is from the resistance to pain, right? When we resist what is. And that resistance is only arising because we find that we have not enlivened our capacity to be with that. We are infinitely adaptable. So I cannot stress enough the importance of a consistent practice, refining on all 5 layers. Because even if you're experiencing pain on the body level, Annamaya kosha, but if you enliven your awareness on the level of prana, energy, then you can easily begin to transcend the physical limitation, because you're not just the body. If you're experiencing emotional pain and you have really enlivened your Jnanamaya kosha, then you can transcend that because you're not just your emotions. So it's important to really refine and enliven all the 5 layers, because yes, we can be challenged at any layer of our relative experience, and all challenges inevitably an invitation to grow. When we resist growth, that challenge becomes painful. So on the physical level, the pain can only be transcended when we have access to the subtler dimension of our manifest expression. So prana, energy, become aware of the energetic body, then you will find the body will not be a limiting factor. Any limitation on the body will not limit you, because you're not just the body.
Right.
So it's not just a thought thing. It's important to realize that it's not just a cunning way to think, right? It's not, you can't just think your way out of pain. You can't just have positive thinking way out of your pain. No, that has a place, absolutely. But you require practice. You require to develop the capacity within yourself, and that comes through process.
So the actual resistance itself is the pain, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, the resistance increases the pain, absolutely, absolutely.
And so for someone who is experiencing that physical pain, there are many different types of practices that go into the different bodies that you're talking about, the different koshas. Is there a particular technique that you feel someone who's experiencing intense physical pain, is japa more important than kriya? Is what gets them out of the pain body?
There is no magic wand. There is no magic pill. The yoga is not a reductionist technology. It is a holistic technology. So we require a holistic practice. That's what Sattva yoga is. We require meditation. We require breath work. We require japa practices, so on and so forth. And of course, Dharma teachings. But in the moment, let's say when the crisis is peaking, the pain is peaking, and so one finds what is that is one's attention. Pain grips your attention. It grabs it. So all your attention is on that. And then whatever you give attention to grows. So when that grabs your attention, you find it starts to expand. So in that way, if we can go into japa, it is very, very powerful. We can draw our attention to the mantra. We can allow the awareness to relax and expand. So pain is now just one of the experiences within the field of your awareness. It is not the dominating activity within the field of your experience. So it's not so overwhelming anymore. Once it is not overpowering, you can work with it, right? If as long as it's dominating, you do not know how to work because it's bigger than you. The experience is bigger than you. It has more charge than you have an ability to handle. So there, japa can be very, very, very helpful, where you can turn your attention in the direction of the japa. You're aware of the pain. You're not avoiding it. You're not trying to fix it. You're just aware of it, but you're giving attention to an activity which allows you to center, to expand your awareness. Once you gain that, you feel inner power, and you can now be with the pain, and you can begin to transform it, transmute it much more effortlessly.
Transmuting. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. That was a really interesting question. This one's also for you, Anand. This is a couple that has adopted you as their life guru. Because of your teachings, we have finally done our Dharma and called our son on his 5 years of consciousness downfall, spiraling. We see ego control his life. We see fear inhabit him. We send love. He doesn't want it. His soul is hurting, and he's lashing out at everybody, including us. What can we do to break the silence that has ensued since we called him on his spiraling behavior? Or is this daunting silence best for all concerned? I'll stop there and let you answer that much.
First of all, thank you for following your Dharma. I think in a child's life, and we have all been children, it is a phenomenal gift to have parents or a parent or parents, any adult really, who is dedicating their life to growth. You know, that's one of the most important gifts we can have in our life, is a presence of an individual who is dedicated to refining themselves. And as long as you as parents are consciously working on yourself and really authentically living the teachings, then everything comes around. So you have followed your Dharma, you have opened the possibility of transformation, and then it is patience. It is not waiting, it's patience. Everything in its time, nothing before its time, always now, never then. If you look at your own life, you are not you have not been the way you are always. In your own life, you must have had moments where you were not acting out from your highest self. You must have had moments of low. Maybe they lasted for a year, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 15 years, who knows? So every soul goes through their journey. And as parents, it is of great value to realize that you are custodians. You do not really own your children. They come through you, you know, but they ultimately belong to the existence as much as they belong to you. So you have done your job, and now surrender and embrace the wisdom that is born out of surrender. And let the silence not be daunting, but the silence be filled with trust, with love, with surrender, and allow your son to embrace what unfolds. No? So patience. Patience, what I always say, is not waiting. Patience is trust. Patience is surrender. You're not waiting for the next thing. You're living your life in the most beautiful manner. Let the silence be filled with love, not angst, not anxiety.
Thank you. As a parent myself, I really thank you for that. It's hard to watch our children suffer. And this question of, you know, in the gap, is that what we need to make our way back to love again, is what she said. And yeah. I think that's it's a painful journey, but I think that your answer is so beautiful and gives us courage to, gives us renewed courage to trust.
Yes, absolutely. You know, we cannot live anybody's life, no matter how much you love them. No, every soul has their own individual journey, and ultimately every soul belongs to totality. Every soul is an expression of totality. And so for those we love and we have unity points with, let us seize the deeper presence. And of course, let the relative drama play out, You play your relevant role in the most elegant manner, and realize the things you can change and things you can't. The things you can change, change them fully, and things you can't change, surrender them fully.
Thank you. I know that there were some questions about, for example, there's whatever happened to Jeff and Jen? Can we please answer that for so many people?
Big question. I'm just loving this whole Q&A discussion.
Where are some of the other characters, Adam? Give us a little bit of that.
This is so wonderful. Thank you all for doing this. This is so fun. Jeff and Jen, you know, on a relationship standpoint, did not end up staying together. And Jen, I believe, just got remarried, I believe just months ago. So that's amazing. And Mark, you know, Mark, stronger muscle guy, he's been at Sattva, I believe, ever since, really. Like, so that's wonderful. And Mark is deep in the Ayurvedic arts as well. Ryan is in Canada, right? And he and his wife actually split also. Not soon. I don't know how soon after that. I think it was a while after, but it was just, I think she fell off the path a little bit, and he was less than a, like to travel as much. She liked to travel a lot, just some differences, you know. I'm here, as you see. I'm just, you know, right here in Santa Monica. I'm right here in Santa Monica, making movies and teaching meditation. Who else from the trip? So Jeff and Jen, that's the big one people want to know about. And you know, never felt that. Elle, that's a wonderful question. She's teaching yoga and meditation in Sedona now. She was in Vegas. She split up from her husband, the man that was gonna, you know, fly in a helicopter and give her filet mignon for breakfast, that whole thing, you know, in episode 7 that kicked off the Ryan. So they split up, and she went deep into teaching yoga and meditation, and now is in Sedona. Tiffany's teaching meditation in Boulder. Yashoda, her name is, Tiffany. And Ken's interesting because Ken, you know, is really the rational mind, right? The beginner to spirituality. And he's so inquisitive. I really love the way he just approached things and asked questions. And he, after this, went on to take motorcycle trips on every continent. I don't know if you know this, Anand, but he took his motorcycle on every continent in the world. He was featured on the cover of a motorcycle magazine for doing it, because only a few people have, you know, and, you know, he was, it wasn't like he was big time motorcycle guy. And I believe spirituality is really, he's kind of divested a lot in a lot of his businesses and just simplified his life and big, you know, just looks more to this time of his life to be for spirituality versus business. So I think it was really amazing journey for him. Very amazing journey for him. Mario, I think, is still Mario. I don't, you know.
Whatever that means.
You know, he's still that kind of just.
He's a free spirit.
He's a free spirit. I think he commits more, to be honest, now than he did before. I think that was one of his big things. He would run from things, and I think this really taught him to commit and stay and have more stick-to-itiveness.
So bottom line, Road to Dharma is a marriage crusher. 25% of people.
Wait, isn't it? I believe it's Anand that says the biggest cause of divorce is marriage. So, I love that line. So it's never, you know, marriage was the problem in the first case.
No, of course.
So it wasn't that true. Yeah, you know, sometimes things need to change. I mean, to be honest, like even my parents, sometimes I question, should they be together still at 72 and 73? You know, maybe they'd be happier apart. So sometimes it's best for everybody.
Well, actually, Anand, you said something earlier about, you know, when we're trying to get something, that there's codependence, and can you speak to a marriage that, you know, so are you against marriage, or is there a marriage where people can help each other transcend? I mean, is there such a thing, or is it just by the nature of marriage to be codependent and actually weaken your ability to self-realize?
No, I'm not so absurd to be against marriage. I think anybody who has such strange point of views not be in a public speaking and teaching space. I'm not against anything. I'm only for intelligence. I'm for compassion. I'm for growth. I'm for awareness. I'm not against. I think being against things is a waste of life. I'm for, because I teach and I live by that. Give attention to what you want to grow, right? So I think we are all relative field of reality. We call it relative, meaning we are born into relationships. Each and every one of us is in relationship from the moment we breathe our first to the moment we breathe our last. This life is a sequence of relationships. Our first breath is a relationship to the plants, to the trees. Our mothers are there. I think, relationships are fundamental to the human experience. And relationship is about love, is about knowing yourself. And your primary relationship is to yourself. If the relationship to yourself is flawed, then your relationship to everyone, including your mother, your father, your brothers, your sisters, your beloveds, is going to be flawed. So I'm all for love. And I mean, my parents are married, very, and I think there's going to be 50 next year, 50 years they're going to be married for. And, I'm very happy that they married, and otherwise, who knows where I would be born. And, I think it's a perfect, I'm very grateful that they met each other here in Lakshman Jhula, and my father decided to be here and ran away from his home and to find my mother here. They fell in love, and they're still very much so. I think so. I'm not for or against anything. My guru, on the other hand, was never married. My parents are married. My sisters are married. So I have people very close to me who are married, and I have people who are very close to me who are not. So I don't think marriage or not marriage is the question. There are people who are single and incredibly unhappy, and there are people who are married are incredibly unhappy. So there is not a recipe for happiness. Should I marry, will I be happier, or should I stay single and I be happier? Right? So there is unhappy people in all kinds of situations. So it's about being aware. It's about being committed to growth. And in some cases, people come together. And I think this idea of till death do us apart is a flawed idea. I think when people do get married, the vow should be, we will do our best and we will commit ourselves to our growth and to serve each other in each other's growth. And sometimes the best thing for both souls is to bow in love. Love can also look like that you have been together, playing a role of husband and wife for 30 years or 40 years, and now it's time for you to not do that. And that can also be loving. It doesn't have to be like a war. It doesn't have to be a villain in that story. It can just be a natural expression of life. And sometimes you can come together in marriage and you can walk the whole life in that way. And that is as beautiful as people bowing and saying namaste to each other and still holding love for each other in their hearts. So this whole idea of that something is gone wrong, if two people who have been together playing husband and wife role is no more playing, that there is something wrong in that. Absolutely not. But all experiences are relevant for life. And as long as we are committed to growth, as long as we are committed to compassion, and then committed to serving each other. And what is important for us to realize? Commit to love. When you are committed to love, then love becomes the clearing within which all your life happens. All your life happens within the clearing of love. We have to be committed to being loving, not to look for love. We have to be loving. We shouldn't be Mr. and Mrs. Loveless, looking for lovelessness and looking for our husband to fill our lovelessness or our children to fill our lovelessness. No, we have to realize love within ourselves and then live a loving life. Live a loving life. I'm all for love and all for relationship, because that's all we have. We are born into it. We are not just in our relationship. This whole Facebook update, not in a relationship or single, is stupid. So stupid. You're not in a relationship. You are in relationships, period. And all our relationships deserve love, deserve our attention, deserve our presence, deserve our heart. When we live from that place, we will find our lives are much richer. They're not so isolated. We will see a world which is much sweeter.
Thank you so much for that. I think the series really does look at relationships as, you know, it's our way into the world, as you say, when we're born, and there's no getting around it. Just as we began in this talk about the old structures, you know, and maybe marriage as we know it, or as we knew it, or how it's been for, you know, millennia, is shifting. And I think that's so beautiful what you said about, you know, serving one another, and also it's really about love. So thank you for putting it and framing it in that way. There is one more question I think is really worth asking, because I think so many people are struggling and suffering, but I'm recognizing the time. So I want to be respectful for your time, Anand and Adam. You tell me.
I mean, we can take more. And I do want, if Anand has time, and I do want to say also, it's part of why we didn't add in at the end of the show, like, this is what happened to people, because it's not so much about what happened or the result. The road to Dharma is the road to the path. You know, it's the path to truth, not what happens, you know, not the destination. But I'm happy to stay. Maybe do you have another 10 minutes, Anand, that we can keep going?
Was that a yes? I didn't see. Yeah? Yes? Okay. This one really touched me, because this is somebody who's really struggling, who has a job. I have a job that is currently so difficult and overwhelming that I can hardly bear to think about it. I don't have qualifications to do any other job. She's a teacher, or he's a teacher, and I'm older. So I have had no luck in applying for other places. The anxiety and the resistance are incredible. My older mother, who has little memory, moved in with me in the last few months, which is more to deal with and take care of, adding to the already overwhelming life. I'm a single mother of a high school senior that despises school, so doesn't spend time completing his homework. This is another facet that is an everyday challenge. And it goes on. So in other words, this person is saying that she understands it's a story, but you know, I understand that God knows better than I, so I need to accept everything that is happening as perfect. But why can't I do that? Why is it excruciatingly difficult to be okay with situations that I want out of terribly? And I think, given the world that we're living in right now, this is, you know, there's so many people suffering various degrees of pain in this way. So that's a question for you, Anand.
I think we lost audio. Can you hear?
Oh, I cannot hear. Can you hear us, Anand?
Could just be some internet connection. Sometimes that happens.
Okay.
So we'll just give it a moment.
I mean, what I like, if you can hear while we're trying to get a connection back, I think that what people might relate to in this is that it all sounds really good to say, you know, do your practice, stick with your practice, etc. It's very hard for some people when they're in just such a high state of overwhelm. I hear this a lot from people. They say, I can't meditate, you know, I can't meditate. And I think the anxiety is so high. How are we doing?
I think they're working on the audio.
Okay. Adam, you want to answer?
No, we should wait for Anand, but I mean,
I'm going to throw darts at you.
No, for sure, the practice, right? It's also sometimes it's too late to begin, you know, when we're in that state of anxiety. So that we need to begin the practice before things add up. So just such a state.
Well, we're waiting for him to answer, because you're right. We probably should just wait for the audio. But I think that one thing we could do is just talking about how these various ways that we suffer in the series. What did you feel was the common denominator with all of these? As you were cutting this together, you must have really been looking for distilling the human condition.
Yeah, the suffering over and over comes from the lens with which we're seeing the world. I think that's what we come to in the end of the series, is that we have that power to choose how we see the world. And it's like Anand was saying earlier, it's not as easy as just saying something out loud. I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. That's different than practicing and continually working on your state of consciousness and your state of how you perceive the world. Because how you perceive the world gives meaning to the world. So I think that's really important in the journey to freedom, in the journey that this series was really about, freedom, is that we learn that we have the power to perceive things differently. I know we just lost Anand for a moment, but and that's why we ended with that sentiment, because that is what it boils down to. Yes, there's these 10, unique episodes or 10 lessons, but ultimately, if we don't take control of being, number one, aware of what's going on, number two, accepting or allowing the circumstances and not resisting it, creating the suffering, and then three, with our perception, allowing our perception to shift then and transcend, then when we see the world differently, it's literally that we see the world differently. Like it can be love that you're seeing someone yelling at you. If you look back and someone yelling at you to do something might be very loving, as Anand said. And as a kid, you're taking it in differently because you think it's authority or whatever, but it could be a very loving thing that's going on. And, so that's, I think, what it distills down to. And then the other thing I'll add while we wait is that, that freedom is not this, it's really good for Americans to hear, that freedom is not this ability to do whatever we want when we want. That's not freedom. It's just not what it is. Freedom actually bears more responsibility to take care of others, because when you're free and abundant and aware, you'll want to act from a place of responsibility and taken care of. Freedom's not feeling good all the time. Freedom's not doing what you want all the time. It's, this kind of misunderstanding of spiritual teaching sometimes that, oh, I'll transcend pain so that I never have to feel it. No, absolutely not. Right? I'll transcend anxiety so I never have to feel anxiety. No. You'll be able to notice anxiety and laugh at it more easily and shift your perspective. Or for me, I'll be able to laugh at my frustration and angers quicker and make a joke about myself, which I recently recognized and realized was a form of gratitude. When I can joke at myself for my own vrittis or samskaras, I'm going to admit Anand back in, then it becomes gratitude, because I've taken something that's so ridiculous, my own conditioning, and turned it into a joke, which is very fun for everyone. And there's gratitude in that. I don't have to say thank you for my vrit, make a joke about it, and it's already embedded in there.
You do that very well.
That's my path. My path is making fun of myself, so that I can, take some very harsh teachings and apologize for things, and take responsibility for when we're off. So I think we're getting Anand back, and
great.
I appreciate that moment to talk.
The comedic path, the path of laughing at oneself. Let's back.
Yes.
Change the topic again.
Good.
Well, I was just going to say back in I think it was episode 5 when because staying on that topic of transcending and whether it feels good. Was it episode 5 where he was saying, I'm not here to make you feel good. If for that you can go have a massage or take a class and exercise.
Episode 7, soon after Ryan, and Anand talked in the Himalayas, it was that talk of
Yeah, and so it was the question, the idea of transcendence comes up there. And I think that you were saying, for Americans that, it's not freedom. You were trying to define freedom. That immediate gratification is such a really fascinating thing, that if we delay gratification, do you know about these studies? If we delay gratification, there's such a exponentially greater chance at success.
And what does that mean?
Well, that there's something that happens in the brain when we don't give immediate gratification, let's say to a rat in a lab. So we, as our human lab rats, practicing sadhana, developing a sadhana and developing a sense of discipline, which does not feel good, and learning difficult lessons which don't feel good, are the path, though, to transcendence. So that true freedom that you're talking about. Can you describe what you were trying to communicate about what freedom is. How do you feel you've explained that in this series? What does freedom mean and who gets it?
Who gets it? I'm not sure who gets it. We could, although I have to say that a lot of people from the course I've just been so amazingly surprised and pleased that people have really jumped into it because of the comments and the questions. And it shows that people aren't just binge watching and not contemplating. I think in making the episodes, and each episode has a theme of freedom. Of course, they're all intertwined, but each episode really has a theme. I would take, something a nugget from Anand and make sure that we're threading at the beginning and threading at the end of each episode so that we have these kind of distinct 10 lessons on freedom. But it's just, I would look back at episodes. I'm like, did we really just, I don't even remember there being so much in there. I would go back and watching it. And I'm like, oh my God, there's so many layers to this freedom and into the teachings, and thus in the course as well. It's the same thing. So to be honest, it was revealing itself all the time to me, right? It was revealing itself all the time. You're making a show and you're making the arc and all that, but we're just really exploring this amazingly big idea called freedom, something we misunderstand all the time. And it's something that's really dear to me in this lifetime. It appears to really keep exploring and exploring. Who gets freedom? I think at any moment we all have that chance. We all have the.
I think you said it beautifully when you're talking about the changing of the lenses. I guess that's the freedom that this series really talks about, because, like you said, it's not the freedom of suddenly going, aha, I feel great and I'll never feel bad again.
Correct.
You'll consistently be given that bad stuff to feel. And it's what tools do you have to look through a different lens?
Yeah, the road to Dharma, again, is the road to the path to truth. Not, I've got there. It's realizing the path and how we have to practice all the time. And there we go. And maybe we have Anand back. Anand, wonderful.
Are we back? Do we have you?
Maybe.
Still don't have him.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Oh,
wonderful, beautiful, perfect.
We have you. I'm going to lead you back to that question, which was the woman who's really struggling and having a super challenging time in her life, and she understands that it's a story, but she wants to know, I understand what I'm supposed to do, but I'm having trouble doing it. And I'm having trouble meditating sounds good, but I can't even do that. How do we deal with that kind of, high anxiety misery in our lives?
You see, we have to start somewhere, right? So we can't wait for the circumstances to change. And it is important for us to, as I was talking about, that Buddha's first teaching was dukkha. And the Guru Nanak's cognition of first thing that he spoke about was that the world is suffering. And so it is important for us to realize that there is, yes, we might be challenged, but it is not an isolated phenomena. That yes, we might be having really difficult moments, and we have to honor that. And we have to accept that. Yes, I am having a difficult time, and we have to give ourselves permission to have a difficult time. But then we have to let go of attachment that somehow it is happening to you only. We have to realize that the nature of relative reality is that at any given moment of time, there is at least 30-40 million people out there having an extremely difficult time. And there might be 30-40 million people out there who are having more difficult time circumstantially than you are. So it's important for us to realize that, yes, give ourselves the permission. We have to accept and acknowledge that, yes, I'm having a difficult time. These are difficult circumstances. We don't have to whitewash it. We must accept it and acknowledge it and give ourselves the permission that, yes, we are having a difficult time. But then let's do something about it, right? Instead of just waiting, we have accepted, yes, these are difficult times. Now let us begin to get to work. And the first thing, as I say, that is the first state that we experience life at, is life is happening to us. And this state, irrespective of what the circumstantial reality is a recipe for high anxiety and suffering. And so there is a shift from life happening to me to life happening for me, and then life happening through me and life happening as me. These are these 4 stages. Now, from the state of life happening to me to life happening for me is a lot of effort is required. Consistent effort is required to make this transition. This is the hardest transition to make. And when you begin to get to that level where life is happening for you, that requires mindfulness, that requires you have to remember, because your brain, which is trained in memory, forgets it and remembers old programs. So you have to consistently apply the correct thinking, the correct approach. You have to maintain that. As you begin to maintain that, then you begin to graduate to the next level where life starts to happen through you. Now, where we find ourselves, as you know, you are sharing where you find yourself is where life is happening to you. And I do not in any way want to diminish or somehow brush aside the challenge and of your situation. I think that it's a difficult situation. It is challenging, and I want to acknowledge that. And I want to also acknowledge for you to have that heart, that where you are taking care of your mother, of your child, where you are trying to do your best, and at the same time you are here. You ask this question, you are taking this course. So give yourself a little bit more credit that obviously you are not just sucked into the darkness of it all, right? So we all have to go through the dark nights of our soul. And that dark night does not just sometimes last just 12 hours. Sometimes it can feel like it is lasting a week, a year. But on the other side of that is light only. It is always light. It is always light. And so this whole, as I said also, I think in Road to Dharma, that we shouldn't be interested in, oh, it's so easy, oh, it's so difficult. These are absolutely irrelevant positionalities. When I say, oh yeah, if I say to you, you want to climb the mountain, you come to Road to Dharma and we are going to Kedarnath, that's where we want to go. I asked you, do you want to go there? You said yes. Now you ask me, is it difficult? What answer should I give to that? And if you ask me, is it easy? What answer should I give to that? Because that's absolutely irrelevant. The point is, there is a way to get to the mountain. Are you interested in going to the mountain? If you say yes, then let's get to work. Because let me tell you, sometimes it's going to feel extremely difficult and sometimes it's going to feel easy. But they are both temporary. If I tell you, oh, it's so easy, you're going to be angry at me halfway. You say, oh, it's easy for you. It's easy for you to say you are a mountain boy. I'm in trouble. If I tell you, no, yes, I understand it's going to be very difficult, Paula, to climb up the mountain, you have already lost. Right? So difficult and easy are absolutely irrelevant. These are just point of views based on a certain positionality that we are currently inhabiting. Our positionalities are prone to change. So we shouldn't be interested in this whole idea, when we say these things, so it's easy to say that, it's difficult. We shouldn't waste our time on such labels. As I always say, we should be interested in, is it possible? And am I willing? That's all. And sometimes we have to acknowledge that sometimes I will find it difficult. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. And sometimes I will find it easy. And that's also okay. And just following easy, I might find it difficult. Like I might have 10 days where I'm feeling, yes, top of the world. I can deal with my whole life. I can deal with my mother. I can deal with this, the son. I feel emotionally stable. And then the 11th day you might have off. And that doesn't mean you have lost. As long as you're making progress. You're just stepping up. You're showing up consistently. And over a period of time, you find change happens. All sustainable change, if we really want sustainable growth, it is not an overnight phenomena. Yes, so there is quantum leaps, and then there is growth, then quantum leaps, growth, leaps, growth. So as long as we keep leaning in the direction of progression, one step at a time, that's all. So start with today. Don't pay attention to the life situation. Be in your life, not in the life situation. So I invite you to stop paying attention to the situation, because situation is thought. Be in your life. And where is your life? Here, now, this moment, this breath. This is your life right here, out of the situation. Pay attention to this moment. Begin.
We got that beautiful teaching before the audio got crazy. Thank you so much. That was so powerful. I think what we're connecting here is, I mean, I hear once again in your answer that the ways that we resist what is in front of us becomes the thing that makes it even harder. And earlier, before when the audio was happening, Adam was talking about shifting the lenses that we're wearing, and that's within our control. And I think in this case, when you're talking about the situation that this woman is in, it's almost like that's a character, its own character. The way you were talking about it made me feel like you're describing a character, like just that's another character. Let's put that over there and not necessarily focus on that. Is that what you're trying to, I mean, I just found that to be very helpful. Is that what you got from it, Adam? Since we're having audio issues. No?
No, are we still having audio issues? Can you hear us, Anand? We are having little audio issues. I try not to summarize, to be honest. Okay. I just kind of take it in. You know, I'm right here with everyone, receiving the teachings. I take little notes, and I just love that. Is it possible, and am I willing? I just really love that.
Am I willing is great.
Is it possible, and am I willing? And then earlier he said, the difference between who I am or who I want to be and who I am. This is an area of suffering. So just start stepping into who you really are. And that's part of the thing with Ryan. He kept asking, step into who you really are. And maybe to this woman, like it is super challenging, but there's part of you that can absolutely rise in it and step into it, and is not forlorn. And as he said, you're showing up here, taking a course. And these are, big things, big steps. And Anand says a lot, forgive yourself 10 times a day. Forgive yourself 10 times a day. Keep high principles of living, but forgive yourself 10 times a day because it's difficult and we fall back. But hold yourself to high principles, but forgive yourself often. And I think it's really helpful for everyone to hear, no matter how long you've been meditating or on the path or how many pilgrimages, that we have to forgive ourselves, forgive each other, and hold to high principles as well, to be that person you really can be. Have that faith. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, I wish that he were here to sort of close this in this moment for everybody. But I'm gathering that it's not possible. Yeah. And it is 7:30. We've gone over a half an hour.
True.
Would you like to lead us in a moment of silence to close this?
Sure. Let's just take a moment, come into the spine, and it's just good to, and maybe Anand will come back in while we're in silence. We'll see. And wherever you are, just again, really include any of the feelings, any sensations, any thoughts, anything that might be swirling around, include, so we're not pushing away and instead expanding our awareness. And also know that we don't have to intellectualize too much what we've heard, that the teachings got in there. We just allow it to receive, allow ourselves to receive it. And I want to deeply thank Anand for showing up, for coming and giving us this time. And Paula, thank you so much for coming and joining us in these wonderful questions. And I love your perspective on things and your honesty on things. And I thank everybody out there for the questions and their deep sincerity. And let's just finish with one Om. Take a deep inhale. Thank you, Paola. Thank you, everyone out there.
Thank you, everybody.
Really appreciate it.
Wonderful.
Namaste.
Thanks.